Welcome back to Game Talk 24/7. I'm your host, Josh Cunningham. Before we get to the video, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and like the video. It really means a lot. It really helps out the channel, and I appreciate it more than you know. Also, don't be afraid to comment down below. Without further ado, let's talk sports. Hey guys, welcome back to Game Talk 24/7. Today, it's January 2nd, 2026. 2025 is gone, and well, so is Lane Kiffin from Ole Miss, because he's at LSU, and we already know that. But guess what? Kiffinless Ole Miss upsets Kirby Smartful Georgia. So a Georgia team that still got Kirby Smart last night in the quarterfinals of the College Football Playoff. What a game that was. We'll talk about that game later because, well, we'll save that. We'll save some suspense for that game. But first, 2026 is here. I hope you guys are having a happy new year. Again, it is Friday, January 2nd. And, well, what's a better way to start off and talking about Miami upsetting Ohio State in the first game of the College Football Playoff Quarterfinals on New Year's Eve. If you're a Buckeyes fan, man, your New Year's Eve and your New Year's got ruined real quick. And if you're a Hurricanes fan or if you were supporting Miami, it brought a big smile to your face. The Buckeyes went in there and they looked anemic offensively from the jump. Miami's defense is phenomenal, especially their defensive line, Akeem Essador and Ruben Bain. They are phenomenal. They get to the quarterback. They put him under duress. They put him under pressure. And then also, their offensive line for Miami is phenomenal too. They do a great job of blocking in the run game and protecting the quarterback and giving Carson Beck enough time to make the right reads. And it might not... Carson Beck, while he only threw it for 138 yards and went 19-26 and had a touchdown, he did what he had to do. He didn't lose you the game. He played a game manager. He just found the open guy, found the right play at the right time, ran at the right time. He only had 23 rush yards and 7 carries, but they were all effective runs for first downs or for big plays when they needed them on third or fourth downs. And so, Miami, can they win the whole thing? Can they beat this Ole Miss team? 100%. We'll talk about that more so. We'll talk about that matchup more so next week when we get closer to that game. But no, Miami. Mark Fletcher is a beast. He ran for 90 yards, 19 carries, 4.7. As a team that ran for 153 yards, 4.1 average. Physically, they dominated the Buckeyes at the line of scrimmage at the offensive and defensive lines. And, well, that's one thing that we talked about going into this game. Going into this game specifically, Ohio State's offensive line had to step up to the physicality task. They had to play better since that Indiana game. They had to grow and fix, and I thought they would. I thought their coaching staff would fix it, given that they had almost 25-something days like that to fix it. I thought they would. They did not fix anything. They looked just as bad against Indiana, if not worse, against Miami than they did against Indiana. They gave up 5 sacks. Again, back-to-back games, 5 sacks. Julian Sain went 22 of 35 with 287 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. The pick 6 was atrocious. For one, Jeremiah Smith has to successfully block the DB. If he doesn't, well, you see what happens. He jumps the route, he picks it, and he takes it back to the crib for a touchdown. He's got to block. But then Sain also can't telegraph it. I mean, we saw a lot, especially in the quarterfinals, with when these teams have had this much time to prepare, 10-plus days to prepare. You see that they're jumping all these they jumped all the screen passes. Almost every single team that won, or not even just every single team that won, but a lot of the teams jumped every single, not every single, but jumped a lot of screen passes. I mean, Indiana did it to Alabama. Ohio State jumped Miami's screen passes. Miami jumped Ohio State's. And so you see, they with this much time, they're able to watch film and recognize it, and they recognize our formation, and they recognize the play. And Julian Sain's got to do better to recognize, not just to throw the ball right away, but to look, see that the guy's there, and then throw some, and then go to his second option. Because you can't just hike the ball and then just throw without looking. That is how you get that pick 6 that just happened. But Jeremiah Smith also has to execute his block. There's blame to go around for both. Miami won 24-14, dominant fashion. While you might not say, some might not say it was dominant because it was 17-14 late in the game. Miami dominated Ohio State from the offensive line to the defensive line. Miami really put Ohio State's trenches in a blender and then turned it on and said, here you go. Especially on the defensive line. The defensive line put Ohio State's offensive line and Julian Sain in a blender and turned it on. And Julian Sain looked like a chicken with its head cut off out there at some moments. I mean, there's moments where he's running backwards not doing anything with the ball. Eventually, he's got to know to throw the ball away, whether it's throwing down a receiver's feet or throwing in the direction of a receiver out of bounds. He's got to learn to throw the ball away, because if you do, you don't take those 10-yard sacks that he took. You might not ruin a drive. But eventually, Ohio State was able to get some momentum going in that second half, and it looked like they had all the momentum. But Miami still was able to step up in the trenches defensively and stop them on that final drive. And then they were offensively able to just run the ball down Ohio State's throats, which no one's been able to do really all year. And they finally did it. And that water dam broke open, and they were just running the ball down their throats until they scored that final touchdown to make it 24-14. And then Julian Saint throws that late interception when the game's basically already over, and he's trying to get down the field quick, score quick, then get an onside kick, and then score again. He throws that interception, and Miami just dominated. Like I said, they were led by Mark Fletcher, who had, well, he didn't have a touchdown. He had 90 yards on the ground. Shamar Brown also had 26 yards, 5 carries, 1 touchdown. And then you had, again, a touchdown by Carson Beck. You have the pick 6. You have Mark Fletcher with a receiving touchdown he had 2 receptions, 25 yards, 12.5 average. C.J. Daniels had 49 yards, 5 receptions. Keelan Marion had 36 yards, 5 receptions. For Ohio State, Jeremiah Smith did everything. He was there. He was relevant. Except for them making that block, he had 7 receptions, 157 yards, and a touchdown. What more can you ask for him? Carnell Tate had 3 receptions, 37 yards. He's got to do a little bit better. There were some drops that he made. While the drops might not have been his fault, they might have been bad throws. He still got his hands on the ball. And as a receiver, you're taught, you get the hands on the ball, you got to catch the ball. He should have caught the ball. Brandon Inniss had 4 receptions, 34 yards. C.J. Dallas had 5 receptions, 31 yards. Will Kacmarek 3 receptions, 20 yards. Julian Saint was very inaccurate this whole game. Maybe not the whole game, because he made some good throws here and there. But I mean, he overthrew Will Kacmarek on a route where he either, I don't know if he dropped the ball or if he caught it for like 3 or 4 yards, but he got hit right when he caught the ball, because he threw away over his head. He had to jump, and Kacmarek had to jump up and catch the ball. He made some bad throws multiple times to Carnell Tate. He has made some very inaccurate throws throughout this game, and his inexperience, his youngness showed in this game. So look, now Julian Saint has made in the offseason to go and work on. He's got to get better in these big moments, in these big games. He's got to work on that experience, working on being able to get better at calling protection, working better at avoiding blitzes without just running backwards and taking a sack, or working on throwing the ball out of bounds when there's nothing there. He needs to work on his pocket movement, and they need to work on his reads under pressure. Peyton Peters for Ohio State's defense was phenomenal. Was phenomenal earlier in that game. He recovered a fumble. Sonny Styles. Caleb Downs forced 2 fumbles that went both right back to Malachi Toney. Lucky for Malachi Toney that both of them bounced right back to him after Caleb Downs forced both of them. And again, they both bounced right back to him. Mark Fletcher fumbled the ball once, and that was Peyton Pierce getting that fumble and recovering it. And other than that, again, you have the pick 6, which is one of the biggest stories of the game, and that was by Keontae Scott, who he's a true freshman. No, he's not a true freshman. Sorry, not true freshman. Thinking of a different game. He was a senior, and he got the pick 6, and that was a good play by him. That was a very good play by him to make that pick 6. He's a very good player, Keontae Scott. Pick 6, he jumped the route, 6 foot, 192 pounds. He's a very good player. He jumped the route, he caught the ball, and then he ran it all the way down. Jeremiah Smith wasn't going to be able to catch him. He was too far behind by the time Keontae Scott was already gone. And so Miami throttled Ohio State. Again, Ohio State's offense looked anemic. I wouldn't say they looked vanilla. They didn't look bland. You know what I mean? They tried to do some things, but they didn't execute. Sometimes good play calling looks bad with poor execution. And I'm not saying Ryan Day called a good game, but there was even if they did call a good game, though, there was poor execution on both sides of the ball, on the offense and defensive side. And eventually the defense can only do so much. When the offense is not sustaining drives, and Miami's possession time was a lot more than Ohio State's. Let's see, what was the team's possession time if I can... Miami had the ball for 33 minutes and 20 seconds. Ohio State 26 minutes and 40 seconds. So that's a 7-minute difference. But over time, that time adds up. And that wears and tears on the defense and tires them out. And eventually you see what happens on that last drive where they can just run the ball down Ohio State's throat. And Ohio State's they've got to in the offseason, they've got to replace the players that they're losing, whether that's through the transfer portal, whether that's through developing talent they already have in the building, or developing freshmen and recruits that are going to be coming in. But they also have to analyze what went wrong this season and how can they get better next season. For one, they got to get better in the trenches. They got to get better in the offensive and defensive line. And while their defensive line wasn't terrible all year, in moments, they didn't get pressure on the quarterback in pass situations, which then led to the quarterback being able to make big throws for first downs that shouldn't have happened. And so they've got to get better in the trenches on both sides of the ball, especially because Ohio State on the defensive line is losing Cade McDonald, probably their best defensive lineman, Caden Curry, Tyrone Malone. So they're losing some good players. Maybe most likely Kenyatta Jackson, unless he decides to say he's got a year of eligibility left, I'm pretty sure. So they've got to in this offseason attack the trenches, get them better. They've got to be able to win these physical games. You've seen it under the Ryan Day tenure, all the games that they've lost have all been in a similar fashion. Physically, they weren't up to the task at the trenches, at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. They've got to get there. And if they can get there, they'll be a good team again next year. They're always going to be a good team. They're one of the 3 best programs in college football. They just didn't have it. People will say, is Miami back? And I would tell you this. No. And you're going to say, hold on. Miami just won. They're in the semifinals. How are they not back? Because it's a different Miami team than what they had in 2002. Again, here's what I'll say. People will say, Miami got revenge for 2002. They didn't get revenge for 2002 because that 2002 national championship will never go to them. It will still belong to Ohio State. What they did was show that they belonged in the College Football Playoff in 2025, like they did against Texas A&M. They've improved it further that they belonged, and they showed that they're a team that can win a national championship this year. That's what they showed. They didn't get revenge for 2002. They didn't do anything that they showed that this team has their own identity, and they're embracing the newer era of college football. They're having to, while bringing this tough and physicality from the old era of college football that you should have, that you need to have to win, and they're bringing this run game that can win new ball games from an older era of college football. They're also adapting to the newer era of college football in the transfer portal, the NIL era, and all of this. And that's the thing. Miami, if for Miami to be back, they'd have to go back to something that in 2002 that was not sustainable in this time of college football. That wouldn't be winnable in this time of college football. Not because you couldn't win with that 2002 team, but if you tried to play like it's 2002 and recruit like it's 2002, you're not going to be using NIL in a transfer portal the way that they are now. And so to go backwards in time to grab 2002 and then bring it all the way forward, you're just going to put your program further back, and then they're going to fall backwards. What Miami had to do was bring their program forward. Forget about 2002 in the essence of we're gonna stop trying to act like it's 2002, and we're going to recruit the same way. We're going to do all this stuff. We're going to act like it's 2025. We're going to recruit how you need to recruit 2025 to win, and that's what they did. You're going to remember the national championships. You're always going to love those. And while they didn't win in 2002, they won before that. And you're going to remember all the national championships you've won in the past. But instead of saying, oh, we're back to where the U is back, we're back to when we won national championships, you're actually not. You're now ahead. You're ahead of other programs. They're now trying to have to catch up to you because you're embracing the newer era of college football. Instead of going back to an older era of college football and trying to embrace that and not embrace the change, you're embracing the change that college football has. So the U isn't back. The U is now themselves. They're not back. They're just new. They're different than the old U. While you may be back to winning and winning games and competing for championships, guess what? The U isn't back. Because to go back, again, you'd have to go back to an era of college football that's no longer relevant. Not relevant, but that's no longer viable. You'd have to go take a step back in time to an era that's not viable in this new age. So the U isn't back. The U has adapted and changed and learned and embraced the change that's going on in college football. That's the new Miami. They're the new Miami. They're not the old Miami. The U is not back. The U is new again. They've embraced the change. And that's exactly what they've done. So, again, Miami beats Ohio State 24-14. Now let's go on to Ole Miss beating Georgia 39-34 in the All-State Sugar Bowl. And guess what? Now you're in Miami versus Ole Miss. You're going to have a great game there. But the question is, can anybody stop the Lane Kiffinless Rebels? Because they just look like they are on a collision course of frustration and rage to get them to a national championship. They come back and win against Georgia 39-34 after being down 21-12 at halftime. And they storm back. They take a 10-point lead. They're up, 34-24. Georgia claws back, ties it up 34-34. And then with a couple seconds left to go, the kicker for Ole Miss, he's phenomenal. For one, Lucas Carnero hits a 56-yard field goal, I'm pretty sure. No, sorry, it was a 47-yard field goal to win the game. He made a 55 and a 56-yard field goal earlier in the game, and he hits a 47-yard field goal to win the game. He's a phenomenal kicker. He went 3 for 3 on field goals with a long 56, like I said, and then 2 of 2 on extra points. He put the team on his back in moments, and he said, hey, guys, come on, let's go. Let's go for a ride. Lane Kiffin ain't here, but guess what? We'll say bye, and we'll say hi to Pete Gold, and we'll say hi to the Pete Gold era and let that era storm right through the door and kick the door down. The question is, how does Lane Kiffin feel right now? His former team is in the College Football Playoff semifinals without him. They have a national championship in front of him. Like Joel Klatt said to him, you could have stayed. You had everything right in front of you that you wanted. The grass is not always green on the other side for Lane Kiffin. And, well, if Ole Miss wins this year, he's really going to be kicking himself. And people say if Ole Miss wins this year, it's because Lane Kiffin left. They wouldn't have won if he stayed. You're wrong. If Ole Miss wins this year, they still could have won if he stayed. Because guess what? This just shows the way they're playing right now that this team always had that potential inside of them. He just had to get it out of them. And so if he would have stayed, they still could have gotten it out of him. But no, you're getting an Ole Miss team that is feisty and they're fighting. And Trinidad Chambliss is one heck of a quarterback. He went 30 of 46, 362 yards, 7.9 average, and 2 touchdowns. Again, he is one heck of a quarterback. I mean, there's one play in the game where he evades a sack that would have been a loss like 10 or 20 yards almost. He evades like Harry Houdini and then throws it for a first down to one of his receivers. He is phenomenal. Kwan Lacey had 98 yards, 22 carries, 2 touchdowns. Trinidad Chambliss, 14 yards, 4 carries. And then you also have the receiving core of Miami. We just talked about Miami. The receiving core of Ole Miss that just went off. You have Harrison Wallace III, 9 receptions, 156 yards, 1 touchdown. You had Stribling with 7 receptions, 122 yards. You had Caden Lee, 4 receptions, 19 yards. You had Luke Haas with a 1 reception of 3 yards, but it was for a touchdown, so who's complaining about that? I wouldn't be. Both teams fumbled the ball once and recovered it. So Kwan Lacey had a fumble that they lost. Connor Stockton had a fumble that he lost. So both teams had one fumble that the other team recovered. Neither team threw an interception. So you look at it and it's pretty even in that aspect. So what went wrong for Georgia? In moments, their offensive line couldn't hold up against Ole Miss's defensive line. And Ole Miss was able to get to Gunnar Stockton. Second, Georgia's defense late in the game could not stop Ole Miss's offense. Trinidad Chambliss was just getting whatever he wanted. Even if it wasn't easy, he was getting. He might have looked like Harry Houdini out there. Like I said, he was just all over the place. He was whoo, 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 whoo. And then, wide open receiver, throw. I don't have to run anymore. He's like running in circles. Like a merry-go-round. And they're just chasing him, and they can't follow him, and then he throws the ball out. And he's phenomenal. He is probably the most dangerous quarterback besides Fernando Mendoza in the College Football Playoff. Gunnar Stockton went 18 of 31, 203 yards, 1 touchdown. And then Nate Frazier had 86 yards, 15 carries, a 5.7 average. So Zachariah Branch had 67 yards, 8 receptions, 1 touchdown. There were moments where Gunnar Stockton missed reads too, because there was a play late in the game where Zachariah Branch is open in a zone. They're down, they're losing. Zachariah Branch is open in a zone, and Gunnar Stockton misses the read. And then I think there was an incomplete pass later on that play. I don't remember exactly what happened on that play, but he missed the read. They didn't gain a big play like they would have. Now they did tie up the game eventually, But that could have helped them do it quicker, or maybe not even time the game. That could have maybe helped them. I think they needed a touchdown at that time to take the lead, and that could help maybe them take the lead. But no. Give all credit to Ole Miss and Pete Golding what they've done. Since Lane Kiffin left, and he said, I'm going to jump ship. I'm going to go to the grass that's greener over here because it looks prettier, it looks nicer, it's got more money. Ole Miss has made him regret that decision to an extent of they're still fighting for a national championship. If they win a national championship this year, not Ole Miss, but Lane Kiffin will probably be regretting his decision because if Ole Miss wins a national championship this year, he's not going to have a ring. And while he may win one at LSU, he could have done it sooner at Ole Miss and then maybe one more at Ole Miss. Because the difference is, if he wins one at Ole Miss, he wins something that he built, and his name gets remembered more for what he did at Ole Miss and then national championship he won there, and his legacy gets remembered a little bit more. If he wins one at LSU, people will say not everybody, but some people might say LSU made Lane Kiffin. He needed LSU. The only reason he won a national championship was because of LSU. Now, I'm not saying I would say that. I'm not saying you should say that because he's still a phenomenal coach. But people might say that. It's like there's a reason why Kurt Cinelli decided to stay at Indiana instead of going to a bigger job that wanted him. And it's because he built something that he takes pride in Indiana. And he is showing that you can win anywhere in college football. Why not us? I don't need to go here. I'm already winning here, and I can win a national championship here. Lane Kiffin could have won a national championship at Ole Miss. Would it have been as pretty as him doing it at LSU? Maybe not, because he might not have been able to get as much talent as he was at LSU, because it's hard to recruit to Ole Miss as LSU. But if you succeed at Ole Miss the way it was, you can build your recruiting status. You can make it an easier place to recruit to, and you can bring in better players. But no, he jumped ship, and Pete Golding said, hey, don't mind if I do. I'll take the leftovers. I'll bring them back home with me, put them in my fridge. We'll heat them up, and they'll taste even better than they did before. And he's enjoying it. He's doing a good job. Have they been perfect? No. But, I mean, Lane Kiffin lost to Georgia. Now, that was at Georgia. And that was Ole Miss's first, road game of the season at Georgia. And so, yeah. Yeah, that was their. Sorry, that was their, maybe not their first road game of the season, but that was their toughest, true SEC road game of the season, going against Georgia. And earlier in the season in Trinidad, and more specifically Trinidad Chambliss's first SEC road game, not Ole Miss's first SEC road game, because I'm pretty sure they had another one before that, but Trinidad Chambliss's. And he said, you know what, give me my chance back. And they did, and Pete Golding beat Georgia. Ole Miss beat Georgia 39-34. Again, the Lane Kiffin list Ole Miss Rebels are moving on to the semifinals. Is it not sweet? Does victory not taste good in Ole Miss right now? For Ole Miss right now, does it not taste sweet? Does it not taste like your favorite dinner on Christmas, or your favorite hors d'oeuvre or appetizer to eat on New Year's Eve, or party dish to eat on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day? Does it not taste just like your most favorite food to eat in the world if you're Ole Miss right now? Because if you're Ole Miss, you're sitting there with a big smile on your face like, hey, Lane, how you doing? Because we're doing great. Now, Lane Kiffin's still getting paid for these wins by Ole Miss. He's still getting paid by LSU for these wins that Ole Miss is having. LSU just paid him $500,000 for that win. So he's making money. But I mean, he already has a lot of money. That $500,000 doesn't mean too much to him. I think the national championship would have meant more. And if Ole Miss went to this year, he ain't gonna get it. So, that's tough for him. Let's go to Indiana and Alabama. Indiana is the little engine that could. I mean, they beat Alabama 38-3 in what was a throttling at the Rose Bowl. And it wasn't the Flood Bowl. The rain came really early during College game day. The rain came, and then it wasn't raining as much during the game. It was just soggy and wet. And Fernando Mendoza went 14-16, 192 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did what he had to do to win. But on the ground, Indiana ran for 215 yards. Kalen Black had 99 yards. on 15 carries. Roman Hemby had 89 yards on 18 carries. Both of them had a touchdown. Fernando Mendoza had 16 yards. Kobe Martin had 11. And then Alberto Mendoza had 6. And it's just like, wow. Being able to run for 215 yards in a college football playoff game is impressive. Also, Charlie Becker. If you haven't heard of him, you have now. Charlie Becker is phenomenal for Indiana. He's a sophomore, and he's one of the fastest receivers in all of college football. He's been phenomenal in their last 5 games, since that Penn State game. He's been phenomenal. He had 118 yards against Penn State, 1 away against Wisconsin, only 6 against Purdue, but then 126 against Ohio State and 52 against Alabama. Charlie Becker had a good game against Alabama. He had 51 yards, 2 receptions, a touchdown. Omar Cooper, 3 receptions, 45 yards, a touchdown. Elijah Surratt, 4 receptions, 40 yards, a touchdown. They had one fumble that Ty Simpson fumbled the ball once, and Indiana recovered it. They did not miss Stephen Daly. I don't know why I said delay in the last video. Sometimes my brain decides not to work, but Stephen Daly, they didn't miss him because their defensive line still got to work. They had a total of 3 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, and while Stephen Daly's a big part of that defensive line, due to injury, he wasn't able to play. They didn't miss him, though. They stepped up on the defensive line and in the trenches, and they physically just kicked Alabama's behind. And that's the thing. While this might not be the most talented Indiana team, they're the best coach team. They don't make mistakes. They don't beat themselves. They're well-rounded. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. And they don't beat themselves at the trenches, at the line of scrimmage and defensive line. Defensive line gets to the quarterback. They get pressure. They get tackles for loss. They read the offense really well, and they know what the offense is going to do before the offense even does it. Their linebackers, their safeties, they step up in the run game. They help tackle in the run game. They do their jobs in the pass game. They make life miserable for opposing teams. And Indiana's the best team in the country. They look like the team that's going to run away with the national championship. Now, they still have to do that, and they have to play a team that they've beaten already once in the season when they were at Autzen in Eugene, Oregon, and the Oregon Ducks, and they beat them 30-20. They're going to have to beat them again. And it's hard to beat the same team twice. But if anybody can do it, it's this Indiana team. Because, again, they don't beat themselves. They're well coached. And they're going to make adjustments. They're going to get better. Kurt Signe is a phenomenal coach. And like he said after the game on Indiana's turnaround, it'd be a heck of a movie. And, man, if Indiana caps off the national championship, I'm telling you, I'd definitely watch that movie. Because that would be a phenomenal movie. And it's a movie that we're seeing play out right in front of our eyes. It's like watching The Miracle on Ice in person. I wasn't alive when that happened, but imagine watching the USA team beat the Soviet Union in hockey in person. It's like watching that. It's like watching a movie in person when it actually happened, and then watching it years later, man, being like, man, that was magical. That was special. There is something cooking down in Bloomington, Indiana. And, boy, is it special. Again, Kurt Signe is a phenomenal coach. He may go down. By the way his career is going now, he's going to be a Hall of Fame coach 100%. And he may go down as one of the most historic coaches of all time. Maybe not the greatest of all time, but with where he won at and what he did, where he was, his name will definitely go down in history. He might be a name that you remember for a long time. Ty Simpson had a tough day. He also struggled with an injury and got removed later on in the game due to injury. He went 12-16, 67 yards. Austin Mack came in for him, went 11-16, 103 yards. They just were able to get nothing through the air. I mean, they went 24-33, 170 yards. They got yards to an extent, not a lot, but they didn't move the ball. And then on the ground game, they only had 23 yards, so their ground game was non-existent, again, like it was all year. Again, their run game was a recipe for hot garbage. That it's like let's say going to a New Year's Eve party, and someone makes this dish that they never made before, and it tastes awful. You're like, it tastes good, yeah, sure. And then you're spitting it out in the trash. That's what Alabama's run game is. It's never been there. It's always been non-existent this season. It's always been something that you'd spit out in the trash, and so they just rely on throwing the ball. And, well, Indiana knew that, and Indiana was able to stop it. Jeremy Bernard had 60 yards, 4 receptions. Ryan Williams had 53 yards, 6 receptions. Alabama just couldn't contain Indiana. They couldn't handle Indiana. They had more talent than Indiana did, but Indiana had the better team. They were the more well-rounded team, the better coach team. And Indiana is going to be a dangerous, dangerous team. I think Indiana is going to win the whole thing as of now. But, man, that one game was exciting. Then you have Oregon versus Texas Tech. And Oregon wins in the Orange Bowl, in the Capital One Orange Bowl, 23-0 against Texas Tech. Dante Moore went 26-33, 234 yards, 1 interception. And then the quarterback for Texas Tech, Barron Morton, went 18-32, 137 yards, 2 interceptions. No offense, but Texas Tech's whole offense basically looked like it was a blender that whole game by Oregon's defense. It looks like it just looked like Oregon was making a Texas Tech smoothie. And they said extra ice, extra Texas Tech in there. Oh, do you have more Texas Tech over there? They grabbed it, put it in there. Oh, you still left some Texas Tech over there. I want the rest of that Texas Tech. They put there. Oh, is that Barron Morton too? That's Texas Tech's quarterback. Can we have him too? They put it in there and they place blend, and they blend, and they just blended up Texas Tech's offense because Texas Tech's offense literally could do nothing. Texas Tech had what, 4 turnovers, 2 fumbles, and 2 interceptions. That is pathetic. Hot trash, hot garbage. Again, Texas Tech smoothie. Oregon made a Texas Tech smoothie. They put Texas Tech in there. It's a blend. Barron Morton did not have a good game in his final game. But that defense for Texas Tech is legit. That defense led by Jacob Rodriguez is legit. I mean, David Bailey, Jacob Rodriguez, Romello Height, they are legit. They had 2 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. I mean, they kept their team in the game, and their offense just couldn't do anything for them. Now, that's also credit to Oregon's defense. Oregon's defense was talking about all week how they heard about Texas Tech's defense and nothing about theirs. And their defense stepped up. Their defense got a total of 4 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, and they caused 4 turnovers. Or was it 3 turnovers? 5 turnovers. It was either 4 or 5. I don't remember how many turnovers it was. It was either 4 or 5. There was a lot. I'm watching that game, and I'm just thinking, man, they got Texas Tech's offense, like I said, in a blender. Dylan Thiedemann, he is phenomenal. You have Tatum Tuioti. Tatum Tuioti, phenomenal. 2 sacks. Blake Purchase, 1 sack. Mateo Uyungale, 1 sack. 4 sacks as a team. 7 tackles for loss. Their defense stepped up in a big way. Brandon Finney Jr. is the freshman I was meant to talk about earlier when I accidentally said Keontae Scott. Brandon Finney Jr., 6'2", 203 pounds, freshman for Oregon, stepped up. He had 2 interceptions. 2. He stepped up big. And while Oregon's offense struggled against Texas Tech's defense, they did enough to win the game. And they're going to be mad about it, but they're also going to, Dan Lanning's going to tell you, they're going to get in the film room, they're going to watch film, and they're going to get better. The question is, did their offense struggle because of Will Stein having the job at Kentucky and still calling plays here? So did it struggle because Will Stein's splitting time between 2 places? We'll find out. Because next, Oregon has to play Indiana. And if their coordinators struggle against Indiana, like Will Stein offensively, they won't be able to get the revenge against Indiana and beat Indiana. It's going to be that game is going to be tough. Oregon's going to have to play defense the way they did against Texas Tech, but even better because Indiana executes every single aspect of the game. They don't beat themselves. So Oregon's going to have to step up and beat Indiana. And then offensively, if they play the same way, they're not going to be able to score 23 points against Indiana because Indiana's defense is more sound than Texas Tech's. Texas Tech's defense is really good, specifically that front 7. But Indiana's good all around on defense. D'Angelo Pons is a phenomenal corner for Indiana, even though he's undersized at times. And so, again, Oregon's going to have to play better in their next game in the semifinal against Indiana if they want to win and get to the national championship game. I think Indiana's going to beat Oregon. I'll discuss reasons why in my next video in next week's video, one of next week's videos when it comes to the preview for the semifinal. And it's just the Ole Miss Miami game is going to be good. I don't even know who to pick in that one yet because Lane Kiffinless Ole Miss. Well, I thought Lane Kiffin being gone would affect them more, and well, it hasn't because they just beat Georgia, who I thought was a better team than Miami. And so now the question is, can Ole Miss win the whole thing? How good will Ole Miss be? But again, you had Miami winning against Ohio State 24-14. A Buckeye disappointment is what we call it. You had Ole Miss, a Buckeye disappointment, and a Hurricane surprise. And it's a surprise to some. It's not a surprise to others. I picked Ohio State to win that game. And I knew Miami's trenches were going to be really good and they were going to be better than Ohio State's. But I didn't think Ohio State's was going to be as bad as they were to where they couldn't handle it and not get the ball to all their playmakers. Not just Jeremiah Smith, but including Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, Max Clare, Will Kessmerek, Bo Jackson. And they weren't able to execute. They had poor execution. Miami had phenomenal execution. Mario Cristobal, hats off to him. He turned it around. Again, that's what some might call a hurricane surprise, depending on what you expect in that game, or at least maybe not a hurricane surprise, but a little storm rolled through. A hurricane rolled through and surprised the Buckeyes, and they won. And that is where you get the Buckeye disappointment. You had Ole Miss and the lane kid from those Rebels upsetting Georgia and the team that still has Kirby Smart, the best coach in college football probably, 39-34. You had Kurt Cignetti cementing his name in college football history, beating Alabama 38-3, getting Indiana's first bowl game win since 1991. And if Kurt Cignetti wins a national championship, his name will definitely go down in history. And then you have Dan Lanning beating Texas Tech 23-0. And Texas Tech, this is just a start for them. They're going to get better. They're going to be even better next year if they can execute the transfer portal like they did now. The transfer portal also opened today at 12 a.m. on January 2nd, 12 a.m. So you have players entering. You have players taking visits already. Some players might have committed already. You're going to see crazy things. It's college football. Crazy things will happen. The question is, will any of the teams that are in the playoffs still, like Oregon or Indiana or Ole Miss or Miami, lose players to the transfer portal before it closes on January 16th, I think? We'll find out. Some other notable bowl games you had. Georgia Tech lost to BYU 25-21. Virginia beat Missouri 13-7. Houston beat LSU 38-35. By the way, BYU beating Georgia Tech was a Pop-Tart Bowl. Who doesn't love the Pop-Tart Bowl? It's just phenomenal. The Pop-Tart Bowl is a staple of college football. It might not be the best bowl game of all of college football, but it is one of the most entertaining due to all of the Pop-Tart antics that go on in that bowl. North Texas beat San Diego State 49-47. Penn State beat Clemson 22-10. Then TCU beat USC 30-27. Illinois beat Tennessee 30-28. I picked Tennessee to win while recording a video, not live. And I'm not surprised that Illinois won. I'm just like, if I'm going to make a pick, I might as well. The game was already going on, so I just made a random pick. Texas beat Michigan 41-27. Arch Manning looked good in that game. He had 9 carries, 155 yards. He went 21-34 passing, 221 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Can he develop in the offseason and play a lot better next year than he did this year, start the year, and as a whole next year? Because if so, he'll be one of the best players in college football next year. But we'll have to find out, and he'll have to work hard in the offseason. Vanderbilt lost to Iowa 34-27. Utah beat Nebraska 44-22. Duke beat Arizona State 42-39. And so on and so on. So, next Thursday, you have Miami versus Ole Miss on January 8th in the Fiesta Bowl. And then on January 9th, you have Oregon versus Indiana in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Those are going to be some good playoff games. Before we go, though, let's talk some college basketball real quick. Tonight, in college basketball, you have Michigan versus USC in Big Ten play. It's at Michigan. I expect Michigan to beat USC, but I expect that game to be close. You also have Nebraska versus Michigan State in Lincoln, Nebraska. That game's going to be a close game. I would expect Michigan State to win, but Nebraska's been full of surprises this year, so that's going to be a good game. And then tomorrow, we see we see one of our biggest slates of college basketball so far throughout the season. You have Kentucky and Alabama. That's going to be a really good game. Kentucky can win that game, but it's not going to be easy. Alabama's most likely going to win that game. It's going to be a close game, tough game. It's at Alabama. But Kentucky there's a recipe for Kentucky to win. They just have to use it. And if they do, they might pull out the win there. That'll be an interesting game. You have Oklahoma State and Texas Tech. Texas Tech will probably win that game pretty handily. Don't know how interesting that one will be. It might be, it might not be. Oklahoma State is 12-1, but they haven't had the toughest schedule as of yet. So the best team they've played is Oklahoma. That's their loss. So, again, don't know how tough that Oklahoma State team is. You have Virginia and NC State. That should be a good game. I think NC State will get that win. I think they're going to start playing better under Will Wade here at the start of conference play and through conference play and really start to ramp it up throughout the season. You have Auburn and Georgia. That could be a really good game. That should be a really good game. You have BYU and Kansas State, Houston and Cincinnati, Vanderbilt, South Carolina, Kansas, UCF, North Carolina, SMU, Tennessee and Arkansas, Duke and Florida State, Arizona and Utah, UCLA and Iowa, Illinois and Penn State, Purdue and Wisconsin, and Florida, Missouri. you have some good games coming up on Saturday. Monday, you have UConn and Marquette. That could be a decent game if Marquette kind of figures the way out. And then next Monday, you have Nebraska and Ohio State, and then USC and Michigan State. So you have some good college basketball coming up. We're starting to get to the meat and potatoes of the college basketball season. We're starting to get to the hardy stuff of the college basketball season. We're starting to get to conference play. We're starting to see how you're starting to be able to see teams make changes and adjustments and get better. Teams that weren't healthy at the beginning are starting to get healthy, like Kentucky, for example. Jalen Lowe is starting to get healthy. Jaden Quaint is actually playing. Mo Diabate is healthy and playing again. Jaden Quaint is now playing for the first time, and he's looked phenomenal. So you're seeing teams start to get healthy, and you're getting to the meat and potatoes. Where now, this season is nowhere near over. It's only January. Guess what? You got January, February, and then you have the beginning of March before you even get to the conference tournament season. Because the conference tournament season's middle to the end of March, and then you get to March Madness, which starts end of March and then goes through a little bit of April. And so we've got plenty of time for this college basketball season to get going. And again, we're just now getting started in the meat and potatoes. It's like we just ate our appetizer, and now we're starting to cut into our steak. And as we get to the end of the regular season, we're going to get through that steak, and then we're going to get to the dessert that is the conference championships and March Madness. But no, I'm excited. I know it's going to be great. College football playoffs we have 2 more rounds left. They're going to be great. The college football transfer portal is going to be crazy and chaotic. And that's college sports, and that's why we love it. That's Game Talk 24/7. Thank you guys for watching.